Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, kids, families, everybody, to another episode 8 of Ball at All Costs. And this time we are getting deep down and inside. We are looking at strength and conditioning. Is it needed? It's become a thing, and there's no better person than Io to be here. But before we go into it, like we like to do, we check in with our illustrious panel. So I'm going to start off with Andrew. Andrew, how are you feeling today, my brother?
I'm good, thank you, my brother. Not as good as you, because I'm going to let the listeners behind the curtains. Firstly, actually, I'm going to big up Dan, because Dan is the only ever present from the panel on this show. So big up Dan, first and foremost. Secondly, Dej, if we could roll back the curtain, we would see some glorious sunshine, because you're not actually in the UK. So, and you're podcasting, so respect to that. So I'm not as good as you, but respect to that still. Yeah. I know you got the glow on you already and you're smiling. So we're not as warm as you in the UK, but it's good still. Episode 8, by the way. Episode 8, right?
Yeah, episode 8 indeed. No, I'm enjoying it out here. It's fantastic. And I'm not showing off, but Dan, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Every week give blessings. Another week we go through. It's been a long week for me, long week at work and everything else. But we're here. The sun's shining in the UK. Yeah. And we've got another session with my brothers, so it's all good. It's all good. How you feeling? How you guys this week?
Good. Very good. Very good. Positive week, man.
Good. And we've got a special guest with us tonight as well. Today, Io, how are you feeling? And then we're going to get straight into it. But how are you feeling, my bro?
It's good. It's a pleasure to have me on as well. It's a pleasure to be on as well. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's important, especially for you guys as parents and, of course, kids as well, regardless of their ages, to know that like they've got their fathers and or their mothers, because I know some mums are on this, that care about the development of their kids and the development of them as athletes, as footballers. So now this is wicked, man. I love it.
Thank you.
Brilliant. And look, I think we should just kind of get into it. So for me, as a parent, you're looking at your child, we're looking at football, we're looking at ball work, ball mastery. That's the kind of thing that we're kind of getting told. And then as they get older, and I'm talking literally like as they go from 5-a-side to 7-a-side football, you're wondering why maybe mobility, you're starting to notice that strength. There's big boys, small boys, strength is starting to become a thing. And then all of a sudden, we were recommended by Alex and said, look, you need to go meet Io. Do you know what I mean? He's doing something on strength and conditioning. And at first, I was like, strength and conditioning for a 10-year-old, that sounds a bit mad. Like, why would you want your child to lift weights? Why would you want your child to do anything weight-wise? Like, are we hampering, their growth? But also, like, you don't want them to be with 6-packs, or there's nothing wrong with 6-packs.
They already got 6-packs.
They've already got 6-pack. But you know what I mean? Like, it's already like the kind of gym work. And then anyway, I took a pilot session with Io, and I saw like there's a lot to it than what I realized completely. But before we do that, Io, I just want to know a little bit about your background, who you are, how you were kicking ball, and then how you found yourself to be in strength and conditioning, the passion, where did that come from, and where you're doing that. That would be awesome.
Cool, man. Yeah, so with me, it started off similar ages to your boys' age. So I've always been around the Essex, the Thurrock area. I was a player that was that in between level of top end of, we would say, grassroots and academy. So that center of excellence sort of quality, good enough to play academy, depending on the academy, depending on timing, but also probably the one that's top end of the, always in the Essex teams, always in the national teams, that sort of stuff. And obviously you go through the stages through your adolescence, your teenage years, and then you kind of you go on trials here, this club for a year and whatnot. And it's all good. I've always kicked ball, played non-league up until, still technically still playing, but I've been injured for the last year or so. But yeah, always I've played non-league since. And So my background's come from football, athletics a little bit, ran track up until about 16, 17. Obviously, just focus solely on that. So then I've always known that for me, it's a sport thing. It's anything to do with fitness and whatnot. And obviously, when you get older, your boys will soon figure out when you get to that age. It's like, okay, what we're going to do with our lives? How are we going to make a bit of money? For me, you're in school and you're looking at your options. You're like, wow, I don't really care about anything else. You're going to do PE. And then I did that for college. Went into uni, done the same thing. Studied sports science at uni. So I was there studied at Coventry. I was there for 3 years. And whilst I was there, I was a bit like, I'm a bit unsure what I want to do. All I know is I like football. I like fitness. I don't want to coach. I don't want to be a gaffer. But what can I do? And then obviously at uni, you learn about the sports science element. You start learning about sports science. You say, you know what, let's go down that route. So that's where I looked at what my strengths were. At the end of the day, you got to play to your strengths. I looked at what my strengths were, what I enjoyed, and how can I make money out of that? And then you look at sports science there. When I was studying, strength and conditioning was it was a thing, but it wasn't like major. Not every club had a strength and conditioning coach, especially at your average, let's say, championship down to League One. Most Premier League teams will, because that's the Premier League. So the roles weren't great. The course was okay, but it was interesting. Studied there for 3 years, and then I specialized in strength and conditioning as a master's afterwards. So I stayed on an extra year because sports science, the actual degrees are very wide. You can go into physiotherapy, you can go into all sorts from that's kind of a very, very, very blanket course. So study strength and conditioning, where you learn about the biomechanics of us as humans, how we move. Then you apply that to the sport. You learn about speed, power, strength, the lot, how we can get individuals, whether they're athletes or not, to perform for the required tasks that they need to do, i.e. in this case would be football. So yeah, studied there, left there, graduated, and then I've done an intern at Millwall for a year, as of course unpaid. And obviously being Millwall, like, it's not the greatest club as a black man to go into, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to get my foot in the door. So I worked there for a year. I loved it. They loved me. They completely they were keen to have me on. And then from there, I've been there. So I've been there for, I think this will be my 5th or 6th year. And I've done that. And then part-time, I've been working as a personal trainer also, because for me, I just love coaching, love helping people. So I work strength and conditioning with Millwall first team, and then also work privately with my clients, where a lot of my training is down to athletic development, also general pop, but a lot about how we can improve you, not just looks wise, but actual performance and function wise. So yeah, I love running, I love fitness. If it's anything to do with any form of movement, exercise, I'm down for it. But essentially, that's me, and that's where I'm at.
Can I just say,
I love that kind of quick kind of history that you
I love that too.
Yeah, but Andrew, did you want to say something? Or I loved it. I had a couple.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I just wanted to say, well done, first and foremost. Thank you for sharing that as well, because I think it's very important. Very, very important. We talk a lot about success on this show and with regards to football. And it's not always about success, right? It's about football is a gift. I like to say, I give my boys or my children the gift of football. And that gift works in many ways, right? It's something that you can use as a tool to have a conversation. It's a tool for continued fitness when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and whatever age. It's something you can just use as enjoyment by watching a game. You were at a position whereby you could have kicked on and you didn't quite kick on for whatever reasons. And like you say, timing, opinions, there's many things, right? But you kept the joy and the love for the sport. You went on further education, and that's very important that our listeners, the parents of our listeners, and the listeners and the children themselves understand that you can still find pathways within football to stay in the game, maybe not playing, but still be involved and still enjoy the sport that you love. right? So I just want to say big up, thank you for sharing that, because that's important that we recognize that we can stay in the game and go on to further education and do many things.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Sorry, Dej.
I just wanted to kind of echo what Andrew said, and I love the fact that you carved out this opportunity, almost like trailblazing with this kind of strength and conditioning thing. Because when you said that, it hadn't really crossed my mind. I thought it was standard to have a strength and conditioning coach at championship level. I know it's standard now, or it's becoming standard, and I would love to say that you know, you had a big part to play in that. So well done to you, and kudos to you for getting to your position. So,
Dej, sorry, one other thing. So I keep on cutting you. The other thing, sorry, I meant to say this as well. I love the fact that you went in pro bono, right? You went in and made yourself invaluable. And trying to link kids that today to go in, maybe do an internship, maybe do an apprenticeship, maybe work for free on the weekends, get the experience just to get in, understand, and do what you did, make yourself invaluable. And then they're like, hell yeah, we have to keep it, right? Literally, I don't know if that was a conversation, but I feel like that was a conversation. Right? You don't have to tell us, but yeah.
It is huge. I do think it's important. I think obviously the way society is nowadays, kids only have to open up their phone for 5 minutes before they're seeing how easy it is to have certain lifestyles or have certain things without having to do that. So I think if it's important, I don't know, I'm not a parent, but you guys are, and it's important that as long as we still drum home to the kids that we do, maybe guardian or mentor or whatever, that maybe that isn't real, and there is still an element that what's important is that finding your way through, navigating your way through life in whatever way. There isn't just one way, and there is many different
100%.
ways to start. But yeah, cool.
Brilliant. So now we can get back to the football. Sorry, Dej.
No, not at all. No, I feel like it's brilliant, Andrew. You know, we need to highlight this and big up IO, you know, having this opportunity. Look, I'm going to throw the obvious question out, and then my colleagues will pick up from this. Why is strength and conditioning important now? For me, I hadn't considered it before, but for my boy, I'm starting to see the benefits of it. It's helping his performance. He's playing in midfield. We talked about when we first met that it's a gradual process. It takes time before you see it kick in. But from your perspective, why is it important? Because obviously you've set up your business based on this, and it's a business that is growing fast. And I see a lot of people talking about strength and conditioning. But if you can just highlight the reasons why, the benefits of it, for people who don't know, who've been thinking about it, want to consider it, this is our opportunity to discuss it now.
Well, I'll keep it as simple as possible, but essentially, football is a sport, right? And if you play a sport, you're an athlete, regardless of what level of what you're required to use your body as a tool to perform. Now, if you look at us as vehicles, you can't drive that vehicle, race that vehicle, do whatever you need to do without servicing it, MOTing it, making sure things are in check. There's only so long you can do that without it breaking down. Some cars can get away with never really having a detailed service. Some don't. Some naturally are pretty cool. But if you don't look after the body, if you don't look after your vehicle, it will fail you, or it will just limit your performance. Simple as that. And the major thing is that everything's based and drip fed down from the highest league. The highest league is in my opinion, the Premier League. The Premier League is the highest level in terms of athleticism, in terms of quality, and it will trickle down. Back then, the game of the standards weren't the same as they are now. Everything is risen. Everything's higher. The standards are higher. So every detail, every margin, every stone can't go untouched. You have to make sure everything's in check. That's why when you look at maybe some of the older pros that could get away with doing X, Y, and Z and not doing certain things, I personally don't think they wouldn't last physically in today's game. Not technically, because the game won't really change technically. You can only pass the ball so many ways at the end of the day. Side foot, outside the boot, laces, whatever. But the athletes will keep improving. 100 meters doesn't change. You run from A to B. The only thing that changes is the time. To improve that time is how fast the vehicle is. The race doesn't change. The football game doesn't change. So for me, as the Premier League gets better, the quality of the players get better. As the quality of the players get better, the standards raise. Now, that just means you have to just get on board earlier. Simple as. In terms of your prep, in terms of your development. Not that it's a must, but there's fundamentals that would help you get into that next step, whatever it is earlier. Clubs are looking at players now that if a player can't run properly, technically he might be incredible, but if he can't run, then what are we going to do? If a club wants to play a system where they want a centre mid that's a strong runner, a good 8 up and down, and the kid is a good tackler, but he can't track his runner. That's a physical element. So technical, fine. Leave that to your coaches and your manager and whatnot. But if physically you're not good enough, it will show. And I work in elite football and I see plenty of players that technically are good enough, but physically nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. I see it every time we have players who come from lower leagues, technically can be on the pitch, physically break down, can't compete, 1 yard behind, that yard slower, and it will trickle. And whatever happens there is the same at every single level of football. It's just that it just filters down. So whatever level that you want to achieve, you need to look at what they're doing at that level. If I want my child to play for this academy or this step or this category establishment, what are the boys already there? How are they? If my child isn't, or this player isn't anywhere near it or whatnot, yeah, I can pass like him and I can whip a ball, I can strike it like that, but fine. But he got into that position to do that through running, through his movement, through his ability to stay on his feet and not get tired, not get leggy. Those are the things that are important. And you need to be available. Availability is the biggest ability. If you're not available, it doesn't matter how good you are. So
100%.
could be the best player in the team, but if you're always breaking down, you're always injured, then you're not good. So that's not a technical problem, that's a physical problem. So that's players take it for granted until they're injured, but until you're injured, you won't realize how important it is to make sure you're in a position where you don't want to be in there.
Ayo, you know what? I loved hearing that, and it's like it's good hearing from you, because a lot of parents don't realize the importance of that thing being availability. Like, they think their kids are great, they can score 20 goals in 8 games, but they get tired really quickly and they're not useful for the team. So, like, talking about athletes, so we spoke about this before. A lot of the clubs we talk about profile, and we look at certain clubs that look for athletes. They want athletes, good runners, strong players. So for me, what I wanted to ask you really was, those less naturally athletic players. How do parents or coaches, or what's the best environment for those players? How can they improve?
Well, people like myself. I'll be honest. Like, people like myself, because my job isn't to worry about the technical side, but my job is to ensure that anything unrelated to the technical side of the game I look after. So if there is an opportunity in a season to do so, or maybe it's the off season or whatever, then if it's a problem with the way you turn, if it's the way that you're just not strong enough, if it's the fact that you're always getting beat at the back post because, one, you can't get up, you can't produce enough power to get up. These are all physical qualities that can be developed. The same way, if you was a parent and you said, my kid's touch isn't strong enough, or he's not good enough, or he keeps snatching at shots, you go to a technical coach to work on how you'd address that. It's the same thing. It's not always down to what people like myself do. Sometimes it comes from what they do at school. It comes from how they're coached elsewhere. But essentially, you need to learn the fundamentals of movement. And I think a lot of kids skip that. They get chucked into football, given the ball. I don't know what they call them, the little toddler kicks or whatever. And you're kicking, you're running around. You develop bad habits. Now you got bad habits. You go into your first game as a 4, 5, 6-year-old. Now you got bad habits. You can kick it well, but you don't have to run. You run all weird, or you turn like a truck. Now, this just builds and builds and builds, and it's hard. Once you've done it, I don't know, for a year, or built those bad habits, it's a lot harder to correct. So the sooner you correct them, the easier it is as they go on. By the way,
I love that.
some kids, by the way, sorry to jump in, some kids naturally just good movers. That comes from genetics. Some are sweet and it's fine. Some aren't, and that's just the way the cards are dealt, in my opinion.
That was a great question and great answer. And that kind of ties in with what I wanted to ask. And I know, Andrea, I can see you came off mic, but I'm just going to steal this one in there.
Go for it. No, I didn't mute, so you're good.
No, so a lot of people would assume, that strength and conditioning requires a lot of weights, a lot of weight training. I kind of said it in my kind of interlude, all of that stuff. But I've seen you do a range of things. But rather than me spoiling it and not giving it, articulating it in the right way, can you just talk through your process? Why you get them to do certain things? Why you're getting them to run through the cones, jump up and down, bend on them, all of that stuff that I've seen you do. You can give us a little bit of a flavor on that.
So, long story short, you always have to reverse engineer. You look at what the purpose is for. What are we doing it for? It's to play football. So you look at how the game's played. Obviously, I've played the game, so I know how it feels. What movements are required in a game? You can keep it quite general, but then you can go more deep into specifics. So it's looking at what's the demands and the requirements of the sport or the game or the event, and what do I need to mimic it? What do I need to do in training to give us the most transferability to that action? So, for example, if you're playing a centre mid, your game is literally going that way, that way, that way, that way, that way. You're working in a multi-directional angle. You need to be strong to slow down, turn, go the other way, which is change direction. If you're doing it and you don't know when you're going to turn, that becomes agility. So if your agility is poor, your change of direction is poor, already you're going to be that centre mid that gets ripped and you become a meme. I say it to the boys all the time, don't become a meme. Those players that if I start doing a step over and I faint one way and you can't react and have the strength to keep up with me, that isn't a technical thing, that's a physical thing. Your brakes aren't strong enough. Your reaction time isn't strong enough. These are all physical things that you can train and you can work on based on what happens in the game. I.e., if you're a left back, most of your game is facing a certain way. So you need to work on how you open up your hips, how you open up a strike, how you take a movement from one direction to another. So it stems from the fundamental human movements, as all humans, regardless of age, what you should be able to do. If you can't do that, then we've got more work to do. So we work from the ground up and say, right, cool. As these are the basic fundamental movements as humans. Can you do that? If you cannot, then we need to address those first. If you can, then now can we take that basic movement and progress it to match to make it translate or transfer to a game of football? So can you lunge, but lunge in a different direction? Can you lunge and push out and then make a sprint? Which is, if you watch a game of football, you really slowed it down, broke it down. That's all it is in terms of from the physical side.
So, Ayo, can you dispel or confirm a myth for us, please?
Yeah.
I know you said you don't necessarily use weights, but will kids under 10, 11, 12, whatever age, under 18, let's just say, lifting weights, will it stunt their growth?
No. Now, this is like the most old school thing. And you know what? I heard it. I had my own.
We need to know this, all right?
No, you're cool. You're good. You're good. You're fine. Because lifting weights is one thing. How you lift the weights, how heavy the weights is, how many reps, in what way, what speed, what tempo. It's way more. It's so much more depth than just picking up the weight and doing it. If he picks up the weight and does 2 reps and then does something else, that's fine. If he's bodybuilding, which is a different method, then yeah, there may be complications because bodybuilding doesn't correlate to football. But if the way we use the weights, I wasn't going to say lift, but if the way we use the weights applies to the sport, it's not an issue. But back in the day when strength and conditioning was first coming up and bodybuilding was the trend and bodybuilding was the main form of physical exercise, especially with men, if you wanted to be stronger and you wanted bigger legs, you bodybuilded. if you wanted a stronger core or maybe a slightly bigger frame, you bodybuilded. That was the only way. Whereas, and that's where the argument and the notion comes from. Bodybuilding is so like out of the way now. Like this, it's not it no more. But your child's safe to do it as long as they're doing it in the right way. If they are entering and doing bodybuilding sort of type of things or things that are just counterproductive to the sport, that's where the issue comes from.
Okay.
And again, every kid will be different, so it's making sure that the child gets the right dose.
Perfect. So I've got a child.
Yep.
He's in an academy.
Yep.
He's got 4 contact sessions a week.
Mhm.
He's got his personal technical coach.
Yep.
Now, where does he find the time? And I'm not saying he shouldn't find the time, but where does he find the time? For how long and how many times a week for strength and conditioning? Or should that be part of the academy?
He may not need it. He may not.
Okay.
Not every child needs it. It's a luxury, by the way. It's not for everyone. Not everyone needs it. Remember, if you're naturally an athletic player, not being funny, I'm a black African man where I'm naturally very strong, very quick, very springy, explosive. If you get someone from another race that just naturally isn't like that, they will look at me and say, "What did you do? What was you doing?" I didn't do anything. It's genetic. It's okay. Hence why I'm me. So he may not need to do anything. He may do, but that's where you profile, you assess the child, and you look at, right, is there a deficiency anywhere that's limiting his game? Is there something in his game? Is there something in his movement or the way he operates that is limiting his game? That might be the only thing you need to work on. It might be the way his running mechanics make him inefficient at running. It just means
Pounding all the energy into the ground, for example.
he's using more energy. He's less efficient. He's using more energy to get from A to B when it can be done in a swifter way. If you can save that energy, then you can probably save that energy for other things in the game. So it will vary from child to child. Simple as.
Fair enough. And Deji was right. I've got like another 12 questions, by the way, but Dan's got a question. No, Dan's got a question. So I'm going to let him jump in.
I knew it. That's why I muted myself. Nah, joking. That's all good.
I've got a question, but let them know in the background I've got a question. I won't get
Oh, say that.
So, it's kind of what you talk about deficiencies. So for me, it's like, so what role, how important is nutrition, hydration in terms of how it links into strength and conditioning? Because
so again, how important is petrol in a car?
I get it. So my son, is one of the fussy, picky eaters. Yeah. He's always hungry, but only eats what he wants to eat. And obviously, I got to make sure he's fueled in the right way. Even as a goalkeeper, his energy levels or exertion is not the same because obviously you don't travel around the pitch. But I still got to make sure he's mentally energized and his body's still fueled up. So the other parents, I know there's better parents out there have the same issues and the same questions. So what's your advice?
It's a tough one because he's a kid. Like, he's in a position where he's probably around his friends, his peers that don't have the same. They don't have to make the same sacrifice. Don't have to make the same considerations. His surroundings, I don't know what they are, but 9 times out of 10, you play for an academy, but all your friends don't, or they don't care about that stuff. So he, at some point, needs to lock in and kind of understand what we're doing this for. Now, it may not even to be play at the highest level, but if I want to perform well at Sunday League, I don't know, Levels FC or whatever it is, regardless of the level, I don't want to let the team down. I don't want to perform badly. It doesn't matter how good you are. And to do that will just be a case of he needs to understand that this is all for his benefit. If you want to perform well, you kind of need to take more responsibility in what you eat. Now, I use the car analogy a lot because it's very similar. And I would try and say to him, like, look, if you was in a race and you're a car and you pick a car with not that much petrol in it, you don't trust that car that is going to take you to the distance. If he's a fussy eater, you find out what he likes to eat. You find out what he doesn't like to eat. You find out the middle ground and where he can compromise. But he's kind of got to understand that if he wants to play and he wants to do well, the nutrition is just as important as anything else. Hands down. But that comes from I found that came from lack of understanding. My mum, when I was younger, didn't understand why I was eating so much. But if you play football every day of the week, you do PE at school, you do after school club, you're running around, you're burning fuel. You need to replenish that fuel with the right things in the right way. If you replenish it, if you put the less efficient stuff back in, it won't do the job as well. So you're just gonna have to keep eating more. So there's certain types of foods that will do the trick. Pastas, your rice, your carbs, potatoes, at the certain times that will enable him to not be so sluggish on the pitch and make sure he's fueling okay.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. Andrew, I know you got one. You just got me thinking, just for myself personally, getting on. I am known as Jorginho, and as much as I'm known as Jorginho, the legs ain't just moving the way that I need it to move. Like, I can see the flip flap, I can see the nutmeg. In fact, I can see a lot of things taking place, but the movement is a bit jaded. Is it too late for an older gentleman to lock into strength and conditioning? You know, that's just a personal thing.
Dej, if it's you, then yes.
I don't want to be cut there. You know what I mean? No, just go.
Nah, it's not. It's not. It really isn't. Like, the body's the body. Like, if you got you and someone who's 15, 20 years younger, you may take longer to get there, but it's never too late. That's the benefit of the body. It's never too late.
Sorry, Dej. Sorry, let's cut in. You said? Did you say that? Who did you say it was? What player did you say?
To me,
Yeah.
I'm named as Dejinho.
I thought you meant Jovino. I thought you had some weave. I thought you had some weave, a weave wig somewhere waiting to come out with a headband.
Hell no.
From Brazilian, Jorginho, Dejinho.
My apologies.
Jorginho.
I thought you had a weave with some wig that are waiting to come out with a headband. My apologies.
No.
Let's leave Deji's aspirations somewhere, yeah?
Yeah.
I got 2 more questions, yeah?
Go on, Dej.
Your playing career, we'll deal with that another
By
time.
the way.
So you spoke about the fuel, and I'm assuming if you're not fueled, the car will break down, right? So players might break down. I've had 2 10-year-olds around me in terms of ones I coach, ones I've just been around. They play for a similar team to my son, who have had hamstring injuries. Now, I've not known kids really to have hamstring injuries at that age. Now, is that a thing of being under fuel? Could it be not doing strength and conditioning? Could it be too much football? Have you seen it? What are your thoughts?
The thing with injuries, so this is where also I want to iron out, is that what I do is very different to a physio. So when it comes to injuries, I work closely with physios because I need them, they need us, essentially. Some physios can do both, some strength conditioners can do both. But essentially, when it comes to injuries, there's so many factors that could be a cause of an injury or why an injury is happening that is very difficult to pencil down. So even if I was to just give you an example, that could be the mechanism of the injury, that, not being funny, it just happens. That's the risk. There is a risk at the end of the day of playing a sport. It could be down to lack of prep in deficiencies, lack of strength, poor warm up. It could be lack of mobility. It could be poor sleep. It could be fuel. It could be a combination of all. And this is where, with injuries, and this is where it's difficult to say. That's why when players at the top level do get injured and it's reoccurring, it's a bit of like, what's going on? At this age, it would be very difficult to say, I'll be real. But I do like to look at the main basic things as humans, even if we weren't footballers, that if you want to be a high performing individual in whatever sport, your sleep needs to be important. How you prepare your body for whatever it needs to be doing. So whether that's the mobility, whether that's the strength, whether that's how you fuel yourself, these all play a part. And the big one, like you said, too much game time. Now, if you're going to run the car ragged, at some point the engine's going to go put. Simple as. If you don't allow sufficient time to recover, It's only a matter of time. We saw with Saka the amount that guy was playing. We don't know if it was because of that, but the guy played every single minute of every game. And eventually, inevitably, he broke down. I don't know the ins and outs, but that is a theory. But these are the sorts of things. So it's balance as parents, as coaches. My job and working with sports scientists is how we balance all of those factors to avoid injury. Because the last thing we want is to be unavailable, because that's the most important ability.
100%. And it kind of was a leading question. I expected you to say some of that. I think some of the things there are key. Sleep is important. I stress sleep with my son about recovery, right? You're not going to grow, you're growing. So your sleep is trying to help you grow. And at the same time, if your body has to recover, it's going to be up against it if you're not having sufficient sleep. So I think that's important for parents to understand. The other thing is, how important is stretching before games, after games at this age?
Same thing as how the rest of everything else. I'd say stretching. I'll probably use the term mobility, because if you look at an elastic band, stretching is pulling that elastic band. At some point, if you pull it long enough, it will snap. We don't want to snap it. We don't want to see how long it stretches, but what we want to make sure that it can function the way it needs to. So mobility is based on function. If I'm stiff, I've just got out of bed, or my mobility isn't great, and I'm asked to do something that's requiring me to go in different direction and move, I just want to be mobile. Can I get about? Can I open my hips up? If I need to strike, can my ankles go in a certain way? If I'm a keeper and it goes into the top bins, do I have the mobility around my shoulders and my back to open up and reach? These are all the things that class. Because if you're super, super stretched and you stretch that elastic band so you lose the elasticity, it becomes frail and it's just as bad. You've just gone the other way. So mobility is probably the term that we want to take forward and use and drive home with the development of our kids.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, you've given us a lot of food for thought, and I'm thinking here we may even need a part 2 at some stage of this.
I've got about 16 questions left, Dej, so we do need a part 2.
No problem.
And 15 of those are for me. I want to get back Whammo and playing.
You guys are still chasing it.
I still think that, I think Ronaldo has shown that if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you can still do it. So I've had to dust out the football boots to show these young cats how it's done in my day. No, but lastly, I think it's been really, really insightful, and thank you for the detail that you've answered the questions. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
I think we need to conclude. Okay. You've talked about the importance of it. The game has changed. The levels, it's up to the person, depends on the person. There's a lots of ifs and buts, but it makes sense. Everything you said makes logical sense.
Yeah.
But as someone that's in the game,
yeah,
first team level,
yeah,
I just want some inside nuggets, advice of what you've seen for us to reflect on as parents, for those listening in and for others, and to leave us with that, if that makes sense. So I know I didn't quite give you a tangible question, but you might say, look, I think strength and conditioning is, if you haven't considered it now, it's something you're going to need to consider, blah, 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 or whatever.
Yeah, I think for sure it's very, very subjective to the individual, I'll be honest. And it shows. I've worked with, where I work now, obviously we work with at the top level, but you see players that come in from other clubs, you've seen come from grassroots, you've seen kids that go through the development system, and you can tell the ones who have had that sort of coaching. You can see the ones that have had that sort of exposure to that. And not being funny, at the end of the day, if you can get the ball, stick it in the goal 15 times in 15 games, it doesn't matter if you don't move well. It doesn't matter if you can't score well. That is the be all, and that's the reality of it. It's not it's not a squat competition. It's not an athletic game. It's a technical game. This is why you get a lot of pushback from parents. He doesn't need it. He's the best player in the team. He can pass. Fine. But if your child can progress through his career, and there's something that's you want to give him the best opportunity, in my opinion. You want to give him the best opportunity to do that. At the top level, not every player is a pro. Out of a squad of 26, I could probably hang my hat on 11 to 12 good professionals that I trust, and I could deliver a program and write that you need to do this, and they'll show up every day to train and do the work. I won't need to nag. I won't need to stress. They will come and do it. The rest, and then you get the middle group that, you know what, that they'll do it when you're watching. When you're there, as soon as you turn your back, you're with someone else, they slip off. They're not that bothered. It's a chore, because at the end of the day, they can get away with it. It's not that deep to them. They don't see the value in it, or for them, they're okay. They never had an injury. They never have a concern. So I'm not need to worry about that. Then you get the ones that just don't buy into it. They're just not for them. They don't care. They don't want to know. And what can you do? Like, everyone is different. So you can't, I don't want you to feel like it's the be all and end all, because it's not. But at the same time, maybe the ones that suck it off and don't bother, they could be playing higher if they put the effort in, if they done that bit, because technically they're okay. But then what's stopping you from kicking on? So but at the top level, is I wouldn't say it's too late, but there's so many more factors. But for you guys that at this stage, in terms of with your kids, for sure, like, the basics is that they have the right habits and the fundamentals. They are going to be athletes, whether they like it or not. They're going to be athletes. So if you start behaving like an athlete and looking after your body, whether that's the food, whether that's the sleep, it will only benefit them regardless. And if, you know what, if they do all that stuff and they don't make it, hey, they tried, they done their thing. But then how can you say as a child that you've got the technical ability, and you don't want to be that kid that goes, oh, I didn't have that exposure, I didn't have that extra work, I didn't know about that. So you don't want to leave that door still open. Shut it, do the work, be a professional. And even if you don't make it in football, it will help you as a human. You ain't gonna get to, however, it's important. It's important, in my opinion, for sure. But it does come down to the individual.
If you do all that work, you're healthy. You're a healthy human being. You're, like you said, you're not gonna have a stiff back at an early age, and you can say to yourself with chest that I did everything within my power to give myself the best possible chance. And that's all I want to do. That's all we want to do as Ballatallcost parents. We want to give our children the best possible chance, and whatever happens from that, happens from that. But you don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Can I say one more thing? I didn't even mention this. It was a big point I wanted to kind of reiterate, is that we all look at the top level and whatnot, but there's careers all the way down the leagues. Serious money down the leagues, if we're looking at from a career point. So fine, you're not Premier League and you're not Champ, you're not League One. Tell you what, you can be a professional footballer, support your family and live a good life at League Two. But you need longevity, you need availability, and to do that, you're going to need your body. So that's the real difference. It's not about always making it to the top. It's about how can I get the best out of what I've got to offer. And I think there's still avenues all the way down, and you will still be okay. The game doesn't change.
For real. Big up Io on that,
Yeah, no. For real, because Deji's still trying to earn a living from this thing, yeah.
Hey, there's still time.
So no, on the real, that's a very important, very, very important message. And with that, can you share your details so that those who need a strength and conditioning guru, PT, whatever it is, you're available, you can give them advice, you can give them advice to find others. What are your details?
Cool. So best way to reach me, to see my work, to see what I get up to and what I do, is via Instagram. Obviously that's at Train with A, so that's TrainWithAY. And then that's where I showcase some of my work with the kids and all my other stuff in terms of my personal training and just me as a personal brand. I'm also working on some online work with kids so that if you can't reach me in person, you can still get the same service online via the coaching app. So there's a lot of avenues, and it doesn't have to be hours and hours a week, 30-40 minutes of some bits that it will make a difference over time for sure. So yeah, that's where you can find me, and that's that handle kind of goes across all platforms: TikTok, Twitter, or X nowadays. But yeah,
perfect. Thank you, and we'll put that in with our literature when we post this out.
awesome.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's amazing. Honestly, I've learned so much, and I thought I knew a bit, so that will teach a lot of people a lot of things. And we're going to get you back on because, like Deji said, we need to do a part 2 for sure.
I'd love that. That'd be great.
Brilliant. And Dan will get more questions in because he's always on to us. Always on to us. Sorry, Dan. Guys, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, and I thought it was a brilliant episode, short and sweet, but so precise and so much detail. Like and subscribe so you do not miss out. Tell a friend to tell a friend. You know what I'm going to say. We know you're true to this, but encourage the ones that will be new to this to get on board. Yeah, come on. Let's do this. And if you're listening on the audio feed, leave a review and hit that like button. It's good night from me, guys.
Good night. And we are out.
Cheers.